Hi, Berlin Lunch. It's Miss Barlow. I am at a really cool place, and this place, combined with Jamestown and Yorktown, makes the historical triangle in Virginia. Can you guess what this is? If you guess Colonial Williamsburg, you would be right. For this video, I'm going to be focused on the different jobs that Virginians had in colonial times. This would have been before the American Revolution and also into the American Revolution. So let's get started. First up, I visited the weaver and dyer shop. Here I got to learn about the jobs that were responsible for creating rugs, blankets, and tapestries. This machine is called a cantilever. It is operated by the trained weaver. Using a lever, pedals, and a chute, you weave the yarn and push it into place, creating the fabric. You could also be responsible for dyeing the fabric or yarn certain colors using natural dyes such as indigo or fustic, which is a plant from the Amazon rainforest that will give you a highlighter yellow fabric. If you decide this is the job for you, your training would start when you were 8 or 9. You would be known as an apprentice. You would learn everything about that job until you became old enough to start earning money for the work you did. I took a stroll down the road and found myself at the millinery, which would also be the next step for some fabric after the weaver and dyer finish their job. Here, a trained milliner hand sews clothing for their customers. Dresses, pants, vests, anything 18th century Virginians wear would have been hand sewn in places like this. If you decide this is the job for you, your training would also begin with an apprenticeship around the age of 9. Most professions in colonial times were chosen for you when you were a child. There wasn't a lot of career changes happening in the 18th century. One of the other facets of fashion is the way people wear their hair. Although this is not a barber shop, this is a wig maker's shop. Contrary to what you might assume, most wigs were worn by colonial men. They had shaved heads and got wigs made to fit their head perfectly. Most wigs were made of human, horse, or goat hair. Women were occasionally known to wear wigs, however, they would use hair powder to change the color of their hair to fit the look they were going for. If you want to be a wig maker, you will most likely start at the age of 8 or 9 when your parents send you to live with the town wig maker. They teach you reading and writing and math, and of course, how to make wigs. Welcome to the governor's mansion. One can argue that the next job was one of the most important in Williamsburg, Virginia, the governor. Not only do you get the perks of living in the governor's mansion, you also have a lot of responsibility. You have to attend and host formal dances with other important people in the town, impress visitors from other places with your fancy, well-put-together food, and serve as a representative to the British government. To get this job, you would have to be well liked by none other than the king himself. So I do look like a crazy person talking to my phone. However, we are going to check out a couple of other jobs that people would have had in colonial Virginia. Next up, we are going to the blacksmith. Being a blacksmith requires attention to detail and a lot of patience. These men work all day to create tools for their own workshop as well as for the rest of their community. As I walk behind this row of houses, I turn the corner and see the blacksmith's workspace. As you can see, this isn't the cleanest profession in colonial times. The man in the red hat is using a contraption that pulls the air into the chimney, which strengthens the fire so that it's hot enough to soften the iron. Once the iron is red hot and ready to mold, the metal is pulled out of the fire and hammered carefully into the shape of the tool they are making. If you choose this as your profession, you start your training at a very young age by assembling tools that are already made until you can work your way up to being a skilled craftsman. A blacksmith isn't the only profession that needs to know how to shape iron. The job of a gunsmith has very similar training. However, They have a special set of skills that require a lot of attention to detail. You need to turn these into this. If it's not made correctly, the results can be deadly. 2 more stops here in Williamsburg, before the gift shop, of course. This is the beautiful home of George Wythe. Mr. Wythe was the first law professor in America. He tutored Thomas Jefferson and was the first Virginian signer of the Declaration of Independence. Now, his resume is really impressive, but what I enjoyed the most was touring his home and his gardens. It gave me some insight into how a successful lawyer of this time would have lived. Outside of the main house were small buildings that had specific purposes, such as the laundry house, need to get a stain removed, pause and see what would be done in the 18th century. Next, the kitchen was not attached to the house. Have you learned from my other videos why this is the case? Before we go into the mansion, I do want to say hello to these little guys. This is a breed of chicken that was almost extinct before the Williamsburg program brought it back. Hello. If you were invited into Professor Wythe's home, you would have been greeted with this unique wallpaper. It's not original, but was recreated using patterns for that time period. Here we have a beautiful and green dining room, which was right around the corner from the parlor. This would have been used as a sitting room similar to our modern-day living rooms. It doesn't look very cozy, though. On my way out of the house, I needed to stop by the study. This is the room where George Wythe would have been tutoring his students, including the one and only Thomas Jefferson. Take a look at the table. What subjects can you infer were being taught here based on the artifacts? So after Jamestown decided to not have its capital there because of these reasons, they decided to move the capital to Williamsburg in 1698, and this is the new Capitol building. And I'll also put a picture here. I'm going to be taking a tour of the inside of the Capitol. Can't take videos, but I will take pictures so that you can see. Here is the floor plan of the Capitol building. The only room I'm going to show today was the general courtroom. This is where court would have been held and where lawyers like George Wythe would have worked. Whether it was because you didn't pay taxes, you were caught stealing, or someone thought you were a traitor, your fate would be decided in this very room. Okay, so whether you want to be a milliner or a lawyer or a gunsmith, you have to do a lot of work. So which one are you choosing? I hope y'all had a great time and loved this video. I loved learning about the different jobs of colonial Virginians. If you liked it and you want to come visit Colonial Williamsburg on your own, I highly recommend it. There was so much that we didn't get to. As always, I hit up the gift shop. Can't wait to share with you guys what I got, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Oh, and treat people with kindness. And that's a wrap because it's getting dark.